So if you've ever heard about any type of narrative of World War II, frankly, at least in my experience, there's kind of three categories of people. The sinners, the saints, and the victims. The sinners being the Nazis and the fascists, and the saints and the victims being everyone else. Now, I'm not saying that is wrong, but that is an incredibly, incredibly black and white view of history, which I do think we should break down. And it leaves out a very important category of people, in my opinion. What about the people who were just caught in the middle? What about the people who weren't the bad guys, but didn't do any heroic deeds, but didn't die for freedom or in an attempt to gain it, who just lived lives after the war? People who were just there and then, you know, they survived and they did nothing epic, but what about them? We don't really get told those stories because they're not interesting, they're not heroic enough, and they're not, frankly, they're not what we want to hear. When we want to hear about war, we want to hear about danger, we want to hear about heroism, we want to hear about the villains and the good guys. But the world doesn't really work that way, does it? Hi, after that very long-winded intro, I'm Margie, and this is my channel where we do shenanigans, and in today's shenanigan, we will be discussing a topic very near and dear to my heart, which is my grandmother. Now, what does my grandmother have to do with any of this that I just said? My grandmother, Elisabetta Ferrante, was around 15 years old when her city of Foggia was bombed. She didn't die, because I'm here, and neither did her future husband, and they proceeded to live very normal lives after the war. But it doesn't mean their story isn't worth telling, and I think the story of Foggia under the bombings is extremely compelling and one that should be more told and more paid attention to, because it's such a poignant story that shows that even the allies, as the good guys of the story that they indubitably were, because of course the Nazis and the fascists deserved to be defeated, and you know, they were doing horrible things. I'm not excusing or denying that, absolutely not. But I think it's interesting to see and acknowledge and touch, like I have gotten to almost firsthand experience the damage that those good guys, those allies, did to my own family. For example, starting with my grandfather's house was bombed. I think half of it was bombed and the other half was a tent. They set up a tent. My grandmother's house was completely destroyed, and that is why I have one childhood picture of my grandmother and no childhood pictures of my grandfather. And the only picture that survives was given to her brother when he went off to fight. So that is ultimate proof that, you know, there was nothing left in her house. You know, and I think it's very interesting to see this side of the story. So, inspired by V's, or Snappy Dragon's, amazing video series that I am avidly consuming about recreating her ancestors' clothes, join me in this adventure of 1940s clothing, Southern Italian clothing during war with rations, which I am researching right now. It's really, I can't find any sources. Please send help. Well, by the time I'm done with this video, I won't need the help anymore, but I appreciate it anyway. Our time frame is 1943. My grandmother was a 15-year-old middle to lower class girl. She was better off than my grandfather's, just slightly, but they weren't rich. Neither of them was. And her father was a railwayman, I believe that is how you say it. And her mother died when she was 11 in 1939. And so my grandmother was left all alone, basically to care for the house for her father and her 3 brothers, 2 older, 1 younger. Now, I think I've never met my grandmother, so unfortunately I will not be able to be referencing her or asking her any questions. I had the joy and privilege of meeting her husband, my grandfather. He passed when I was a child, so I cannot even ask him for some details. And all that remains to me is, you know, the one photograph of the garments that I am certain she owned prior and during the war, because all the other pictures that I will show you and that I have are after the war. So, first of all, a little bit of context on my grandmother's life. She was born in 1928, third born of a family of then 2 brothers. Then a brother was born after her. I'm not sure what date he was born. The first bombing of Foggia took place on May 28th, 1943. Most of these bombings, the initial ones at least, were targeting railways and airports because Foggia was a very vibrant center of military transportation. My great-grandfather, being a railway man, wisely took a run for it with his children, except for the eldest, who was sent off to fight. Keep that in mind, we will come back to that. So they went to, this is a really interesting part of the story actually. My grandmother, her now two brothers, because one was off to fight, and father went to an abandoned railway shack that he had seen once while working, I think up in Basilicata or Calabria, farther out than Puglia. And they stayed there for a whole year, despite the bombings lasting until September. They started May 1943, ended September 43, and that is also when the German occupation of Foggia ended and the American occupation of Foggia began, which here, for the American occupation, I have to give a special shout out to my grandpa. He worked in military hospitals at 15. He learned English while trying to trade for food with soldiers. I really love him and respect him, because he was an amazing man who I really have a lot of respect for and gratitude for. So again, she lived in that railway shack for not a year, but 11 months, you know, just in case they didn't know that the bombing would for sure end in September. So, you know, he was just trying to keep his children safe. And there, my grandmother would have been doing all of the housework as the only woman of the family, since it was the 40s, and my great-grandfather was the one who went and, you know, did the shopping for his children. And because, you know, obviously they were all teenagers or early 20s, kind of young adults, so he didn't want to put them in danger, and he did the shopping for them. So how does this context that I have affect what I think my grandmother would have worn? First of all, I researched, and there were textile rations in Italy from 1941. Textile rations were extremely prevalent, not as prevalent as food rations, mind you, but I think they would have been very much a part of a young girl's life. So I don't think, obviously she would have bought new clothing since her father was in charge of the shopping. I am thinking that everything that she would have owned in that railway shack for those 11 months would have been something that she had owned prior to the war. Now, I was debating the option that something would have been passed down to her from her mother. I am not very sure, because keep in mind, she would have been 15 and her mother would have been a grown adult who passed away 4 years prior. Now, I don't think fashion was her prime concern at that moment, but you never know. I have already made some undergarments. I have made a bullet bra with a softer bullet shape, because as you'll see in some of her pictures, her silhouette is not very dramatically bullet bra-y, and a pair of simple knickers. They're cotton sateen. It's just what I had on hand. I don't think hers would have been cotton sateen or silk. They definitely would not have been silk. As an unmarried 15-year-old middle-class girl, no silk. But I used that cotton sateen because I think it was very much in the spirit of the war to make do and mend. Even in Italy, there were some magazines which, you know, instructed women to make clothing out of blankets, tablecloths, what have you. Although, again, another complicated side to the story. I don't think my grandmother would have made her own undergarments or her own clothing, since she probably knew how to sew, but she was never a sewer. She was a great knitter, and I even have a picture of her knitting in 1948. So I really don't think she would have made any of that clothing herself. Maybe she would have mended it, sure, but I think it would have been store-bought at that point. So I made her undergarments, and now comes everything else, because I maybe need a slip, I need stockings, I need shoes, a little bag if I want to replicate the one that she has in the picture, and I will also need a jacket, a blouse, and a skirt. But since I am tasked by myself with the duty of making these clothes, I want to make these as ration friendly as possible. So I don't want to use too much fabric. I was trying to look for color rations because I did hear that in Britain there were some color rations, but I could not find any for Italy. So I'm not rationing colors here. I don't know if I'm using a color that was rationed in Italy during that time. I am unaware. So without further ado, let us dive into some family research, and then I will show you what I have got so far.
Crap ton of pictures to go through, so let's do it. This is, I'll start with my personal favorite. This is, I think 46 or 47, so post-war. This beautiful, beautiful coat, which comes up a lot, and it's quite a mystery to me because it doesn't have buttons, and everyone's gonna be like, oh, but it closed with snaps. Wait, I'll show you other pictures. Now on the back of this, we have her with, and my grandpa. I don't know what she's holding. I'm assuming some school stuff, because this was 47, so she was probably 17. And there's plaid here. Keep the plaid in mind. We're gonna come back to the plaid. Then this image, which is very helpful. This is still post-war, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure this is maybe 45. There was no date behind this one, but this is, she looks younger in this picture than she does in that. But I'm pretty sure that this isn't during or pre-war. But her shirt here is really helpful to me because it kind of gives me an idea of what type of shirt she would have worn, which is helping me now in my draping endeavors. Her skirt is also absolutely lovely in her little bag. This is the only childhood picture I have of her and her family. That's her dad, that's her mom, it's her. Tell me she's not the cutest. And then those are her brothers. Then this is a picture of her. There she is with the coat. What was I telling you? The coat. It doesn't have closures. Where the heck are the closures? With her school friends. Quite a bit of plaid. Again, you see that plaid pop up again in a lot of these pictures. By the way, I do not have the originals of these pictures. That's why they're like blown up on giant A4 paper. I do not have the small copies with me, but I do have a lot of other small copy photographs. So this picture I just printed out for reference. This is out of my time frame. This is when she was married and she'd already had her first child. I just got this for silhouette reference because as you can see, she's not wearing a bullet bra, or at least not as dramatic of a bullet bra as many 50s women were wearing back then. Then we have this picture, which is a picture of her with this really pretty Peter Pan collar dress, of which I have a smaller version, like the originals I have, and that's my grandpa, obviously. This is really good for hair and collar reference. This is, again, her and my grandpa. I also printed this out. This picture is a bit more confusing as into what she was wearing. I'm not sure. I just printed out for silhouette reference. And this is my absolute favorite outfit of hers. It would be a dream for me to replicate this. I have looked everywhere online for plaids that look like this. I have not found them. This is not her mom, by the way. I'm not sure who that is. But this is a double-breasted jacket. And again, plaid dress popping up. This is like the third instance of the plaid dress popping up. And then we have this, which is, again, the 50s. That's my grandpa. That's her cousin, I think. That's her. I printed this out again for silhouette reference because, as you can see, even in the full 50s after she was married, very post-war, no, this is 54, sorry, so she would have been engaged. Her silhouette is still not very dramatic. Like, you can tell it's not snatch waist. Like, even in pictures of the same day as this picture, like, it doesn't strike me as a dramatic 50s bullet bra snatch waist girdle silhouette. Then we have this picture, which is really good for a 40s silhouette. This is a beautiful 40s dress. I'm not gonna make this one, but I also printed this out for Hair Inspo because she looks adorable. I love this dress, and also it's a pretty good silhouette reference. And this is, I just printed this out because it's adorable. That's her sister-in-law, and that's, I don't know who that is, but we need to bring these play suits back. Like, there's lollipops on them. Like, oh, come on. And these, sketches, and this is the other instance of the plaid dress. the infamous plaid dress. These are all from 47, 48. I have no pictures of her during the war, so I don't know whether this is something that she would have worn during the war. But, you know, who knows? Oh, and another picture here is the suit, which is a very lovely suit. I just printed out again for silhouette because this is 47, 48. You can tell she's not really wearing a bullet bra. Like, the silhouette for bullet is not there at all. So grandpa looking dapper. He's always so well dressed. Like, also that lollipop play suit. I want it. There's a fly in my room. Oh my god. Okay, here are the pictures. So that is my grandpa right there. Where's my grandma? She's right here. This one. And as you can see, she's got the plaid dress on. Then also have this picture with, I think, her eldest and her youngest brother. I don't know if you can see, but she also has the plaid dress on. Okay, this is 47, so this must be around 47 as well. This is her, I believe she's knitting. This is 48. Can't tell what's written here, but it is 48. Then this is a coat that looks like her other pink coat. I say pink, I don't know it was pink. I just imagine it to be pink with the plaid dress underneath. She's so pretty. This is her with her eldest brother. This is 47. And she's wearing, like, this is my biggest silhouette reference, this dress. For a bit of silhouette context, this is her in 55 with her first son. My dad. She's not, like, she doesn't look like she's, first of all, the sun face. Second of all, she doesn't look like she's, no, sorry, this is 55 or 56, one of the two. But she doesn't look like she's wearing such a dramatic bullet bra. Also, this dress, what the heck is up with this dress? I want. And the picture. This picture is extremely, extremely special to me because it's the only picture that I have of her during the war that is not a childhood picture. This is a picture from 1943 that she gave her brother when he went off to fight, and she's here, and this is the note behind it, this is Foggia, 17th of April, 43. So she says to Paolo, her brother, I give him this photograph of me, so in the saddest moment he will be reminded of his sister who always thinks about him, and obviously Elisa, her nickname. I think this is absolutely darling, and this is further proof that her house was destroyed, because the fact that I only have the one childhood picture of her and the two pictures of her parents. Like, this is pre-war, it's her dad, and this is pre-war, it's her mom. This is her, and that's my grandpa, and that's them with their first two kids. The fact that I have those, and the other one I showed you earlier, the big one, and this is the only one from like her teenage years during war, speaks volumes, because it means that the other pictures were just destroyed, which is absolutely heartbreaking, because when you realize, you know, I'll never see what she looked like as a child, if she, like, as an older child, not as a toddler, if she looked like me, and same with my grandpa. So, but let's dive more into this beautiful outfit that she's wearing here. So, she's wearing this little jacket thing. Wait, I have a zoomed in version of this on my phone, hold on. So, the jacket has around, I think, 5 buttons, and it's got this really cool cutout detail on the pockets. It's really cool, I really love it. Her bag is absolutely darling too. I'm gonna have to see what I can find to replicate that because it's so cute. Shoulders are most definitely padded. This is also a great makeup reference because you can tell that she's pretty much not wearing any, which makes sense for a 15-year-old girl. I also can tell what side she parted her hair. It's so cute. Her skirt is actually shorter than I thought, which makes me think that it was a little bit small on her because, again, 43 during war, or maybe it was okay to wear skirts that reached just above the knee. And then I don't know if she's wearing like boots or something. But yeah. So, and as you can tell, the neckline of whatever she's wearing underneath this jacket is pretty Hi. So yeah, for this, I'm not thinking to self-draft a pattern because this is not the 1910s. I only feel comfortable self-drafting patterns if it's the 1910s. So needless to say, I will be purchasing a pattern. I have scoured the internet for something that looked similar and I couldn't find a 40s jacket pattern that looks similar to this. But I did find, I found one that looked sort of similar, none of them with this collar shape, so I will have to make some alterations, because I think it's got a very particular shape. Oh no, no. Okay, so the upper collar that's made of the main fabric, that's not matchy with the skirt, because I do think she's wearing a skirt and blouse underneath this. It seems like the most rational choice because it looks like it's matchy. Like, of course, we don't know for sure, but I assume that this white bit would have been the same fabric as this cream skirt. So I'm thinking like white or cream wool. This definitely looks to be wool. The upper collar, like the darker collar, definitely looks to be similar to a lot of 40s coat collars I've seen. So I think it's just a question of like stitching it to the lower collar, which has to be of a different shape. And it has a yoke, obviously, and the fabric's gathered here. What the heck is that? What is that? I never saw that before. What is that? No! What is that? Is that on the original picture? Maybe it's this thing in the picture? No. Oh my gosh, I don't know what that is. So I'm thinking not doing buttonholes for this, because if you look real close, I think these buttons are like definitely metal buttons, like those more decorated metal buttons. And I think on her skirt, her polka dotted skirt from the beach picture, she does have similar buttons there. So I'll look at those for closer reference. But I do think they're not hanging on by buttonholes here, because they definitely look sewn to this left side of the coat, but which looks fastened with like either hooks and eyes or snaps. As you can see, there is a little tension here. I think we uncovered a secret, so yeah. I'm not gonna look for fabric yet. I didn't have time today to go look for fabric, but I think I'm going to pretty soon, at least by the end of this week. Today's Monday. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Oh, and I'll update you when I buy a slip to go with this look, because okay, now looking at the length of her skirt, I am not quite sure she wore a slip, so I may skip that step. I'll just buy the slip just in case, also because I need like slips to wear and like and to double as like nightgowns and like petticoats and underlayers and such. But I don't know if I'll wear it underneath this outfit. We'll see. This is very interesting, like the length of her skirt. I was really expecting it to be longer. I'm going to show you these either lying flat or on a mannequin, because after trying them on, I took the executive decision not to be modeling them on camera. So this is how I'm going to explain them. First up, we have the bra. The bra was made with a free pattern by So Historically on her blog. These were actually her grandmother's bras from the 40s and 50s. This is a less dramatic bullet shape, which trying it on absolutely is the perfect shape, I'm pretty sure. So I need to iron this, but I used this lovely vintage trim to give it a bit of pizzazz. As you can see, the fabric is not exactly plain cotton, but it's what I had on hand. As I said in the intro, it's what I had in my stash, so I feel like that would have been good enough for make do and mend mentality. There's 3 little strappies here, like one is cotton twill and 2 are the vintage trim, because just the cotton twill or just the vintage trim didn't look good, so I took some creative liberty. The back closes with a hook and eye and elastic. It looks weird here because I do think I have to adjust the strap positioning a bit more, and also because my mannequin is a different chest size, chest distribution, and shoulder size than I am, so that doesn't really help. But it's very comfortable, very supportive, and I could definitely surmise that my grandmother would have been wearing something very similar to this, because this could also work for a more 30s silhouette, which is great when you're a 15-year-old who is not exactly fashion forward. So like, I don't want her undergarments to be screaming a certain decade, because they might have been older or they might have been brand new but not fashionable during the war. Considering she was 15, I don't think she would have had the access to that many luxury bras in her life, if any. And you know, I just feel like she might have had 1, 2, or 3 good pairs and that's it. The knickers, which I also absolutely need to iron. Again, same fabric, trimmed with the same vintage trim. Differently from the bra, which the bra was completely handmade because my sewing machine needle had broken and I didn't have time to replace it. These I wanted to make as industrial as possible, so these are completely machine sewn, like even the seam finishings, except for the buttons and the buttonholes. I don't have a buttonhole foot. I sew on an antique machine, so I do my own buttonholes and I put on my own buttons. These, I didn't make them very spacious because she does wear tighter skirts, as you have seen in the pictures. Hold on. See, she wears, like, in this skirt, it's pretty telltale that her knickers or panties or whatever she was wearing were not very spacious, because otherwise it would wrinkle and show in that skirt. And I know that she's at the seaside, but she does wear fitted skirts in other pictures that you have seen. I have not shown you them yet because I can't find them yet, but trust me. So these knickers have like a gusset thing. I took them from this pattern, but I just doubled this because, I don't know, it didn't make sense to me that one half was like this and the other half wasn't. So my knickers are like this, but doubled. So see, there's like a diamond shape at the front, diamond shape at the back. So yeah, these are the undies that, again, I will not be modeling on camera, but these are very, very comfortable, and they're not bulky, which is great when you live in such a hot city and you're wearing tighter skirts, but they're also not like scanty, if you will. Neither is the bra, which is good because she is a 15-year-old girl from a middle class background. You know, her underwear would have been pretty standard. Sometimes I question my life choices and I'm like, I'm thinking way too hard about my grandmother's underwear. But you know, what's the thrill in life if you don't just think what your ancestors might have been wearing under their clothing? Are you really having fun if you're not doing that? Oh God. Hey everyone, editing Margie here. Just wanted to come in and say that this video was way too long, so I had to break it up into parts, either 2 or 3. I am hoping it's gonna be 2 parts. So just, this is the end of this video. In the next one, I will walk you through the sewing of the slip and the actual outer layers of the outfit. So stay tuned, feel free to subscribe, give this video a like if you liked it. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next shenanigan, hopefully as soon as a week or 2. Bye!